first off, gentlemen, given how vital expansion to Asia seems to be, based on our survey, based for BC entrepreneurs, why is the uptake so slow and the disconnect between intention and action, planning, implementation so wide? What's missing here?
Well, you often get the idea if you ask companies, same thing for investment. Do you plan to do more investment? Sure we do. How much do you plan to spend? Well, not really that much. We're not sure. When you ask people, do you see opportunities in Asia? Well, sure, we'd love to get into Asia. That's where the growth is going to be coming from. When you actually get into the implementation stage, that's where it gets more difficult. Regulatory hurdles. Do we have the product space? Do we have companies in the particular countries that we're thinking about that we can partner with? And then you get all these cultural issues. We don't understand the particular markets. All those things start to become challenging. So whereas you might say we have a 5-year plan to be in Asia, all of a sudden regulatory hurdles, 5-year plan becomes a 10-year plan. They are unfamiliar markets. We don't know what they want. We talk about the Chinese consumer just as a representative of the Asian consumer. What does the Chinese consumer want? Well, for Canadian businesses, it hasn't really been a question we've asked before. We understand what the US consumer wants. We understand them culturally, we understand the language, we understand the economic structure. When you start getting into the Asian complex, we don't understand the Asian consumer. We don't really understand the regulatory structure. And while we might see the growth opportunities and most of the economic growth over the next few years there, and the Asian consumer deriving economic growth, which is the point that Jacques made, we don't necessarily understand what those markets are. And so it becomes more difficult to break into it.
So what's the disconnect between intention and action? I mean, in addition to what David had outlined.
When I was in Shanghai, opened my first office in 2005. There are not many really Canadian business over there. So there's total only, in Canada, there's only about 8 companies has been 100% invest to China. There's only 5 trade commissioners in Shanghai. Compared that time in Australia, there's over 120. So, but now it's all changed. It's about over 86 companies, and there's many of transaction coming up in each years. I think that's also, we need to appreciate the policy that our Minister Immigration they did a great job just because they're getting a lot of the Chinese investor coming to town and help the business connected. And we're just take our own role that's putting the people and putting the two sides of people together. Mm-hmm. I think I found out that is a great advantage by utilizing the new commerce and finding the way that connect the business over in China.
Can we get out in front of the curve a little bit, and how maybe can that be done? What resources exist, and again, maybe specific examples of companies who have been able to sort of operate and predict like they have been in a domestic market, in international markets.
Well, as David mentioned, I mean, BC has had more success certainly in doing business in Asia than other provinces. I mean, 40% of our trade, at least this, as of today anyway, is with Asian jurisdictions. A lot of it is resource companies, though, and they tend to be larger. If you look at how the BC lumber industry developed markets in Asia, particularly in China in the past number of years, I mean, it took a decade of relentless effort, working hand in glove with government authorities, by the way, investing to get partners, to get a market presence, to work on trying to understand the Chinese building code, making sure we had the wood products that would conform with the building code requirements in China, nudging them to alter their building codes. Earlier in the history of the industry, the same happened in Japan. But again, these were larger firms, and the industry did something that it normally doesn't do. It worked collaboratively. So it wasn't just Canfor, West Fraser, Interfor. In terms of the Chinese market, there was kind of a collaborative effort. They are competing for customers, but there was a collaborative effort to get a presence in the market, and a lot of good work done by FP Innovations and the BC and federal governments.
What can be done to arm entrepreneurs, business leaders on a local level to encourage that encroachment, that further curiosity to really battle the cyclical realities of a Canadian economy, of a North American economy, and to really arrange markets in a way that they keep giving?
The idea about the regulatory environment, the commercial environment in various countries, especially in Asia, but also in Europe, and those uncertainties that might keep Canadian businesses cautious, because we do tend to have this general caution about us, and the things are uncertain. We'll take some efforts, but we won't necessarily do as much as we should do. Here's the marketing spiel. HSBC probably has commercial operations, not just like banking operations, but commercial operations in most of the countries you are probably going to be thinking about opening up your business towards. So we have an understanding of the regulatory environment. We understand the political situation. We understand the culture. We can discuss that with you and help you guide you in terms of getting access to financing, understanding the markets, overcoming the regulatory hurdles, because we have operations there. We're not, and I'll say this relative to, say, some of my domestic competitors from the banking side, we can't just sort of take you to the Canadian shores and wave by and hope that you do well there. We can actually help you when you get on the ground in those countries. We know the people, we know the culture, we know the political situations. That provides a lot of intelligence that can help you overcome some of the hurdles and the uncertainties as you're entering that.